What is going on, everybody? We have a tier list today ranking what UFC fighters would most likely be on Epstein's Island. So we're going to run through the tiers real quick, starting with what would normally be the S tier with Bill Clinton. Obviously, this is the fighters that are 100% there. There all the time, doing business with them, getting down and dirty with them, not doing good stuff. Right below that, we have good friend of J.E., guys like Donald Trump and stuff like that. Not good guys. Not good guys. You don't want to be in those two areas. We got just below that Vacation there. They're not there all the time. They're not best friends, but they'll go to a party or two. They'll get a little freaky, a little down and dirty. Not a good place to be either way. We got Once and Never Went Back. People make mistakes, obviously. Like, people will go there and be like, holy crap, get me out of here. They leave. It's still not a great place to be, especially if you went there after 2006, I think it was, when he was, found guilty. And then, of course, on the bottom list, we have Kanye West, because Kanye West, my goat, would never go there. Never in the Epstein files would go in there talking shit on these people. So, yeah, we're going to hop right into it. All right, first person up, we have Shamil Gaziev. All right, listen. Shamil Gaziev, I think that he would be like a bodyguard of Jeffrey Epstein or something. You know what I mean? Like, he'd be a bodyguard. He wouldn't be there because he's invited to the parties. He'd be there to stand at the front door, and they'd pay him with, like, nasty shit, So I think we can put him right there with good friend of J.E. Like, I think he'd do work for J.E. or something. I don't think he'd be like a Bill Clinton level great friend of Jeffrey Epstein, but I think he would be at the island quite often, doing work or something, getting a little down and dirty, stuff that's not good. Next up, we have Leon Edwards. And, this is a tricky one. I'm not quite sure, because in one way you could put him, really anywhere, I feel like, on here. But I feel like he's the type of guy that would vacation there on the weekends, trying to let a little steam off from losing. Losing like 3 fights in a row. He just got knocked out by Carlos Prates. He's so angry. He's got to go release his anger on a little bit of a little freak off. And not good, Leon. Come on, man. We got Sean O'Malley. This is another tough one, because I feel like Sean's a good guy. Like, he has this big personality and stuff, but I think at the end of the day, I think he's a good guy. I think he's the type of person where he's trying to fit in with everyone else. Despite his stardom and his big personality, he's kind of an awkward guy, and I feel like he would go, but once he saw what was going on there, he just wouldn't go again. He would be like, oh, let me get out of here. So we're gonna put him right there. Pretty confident with that spot. I think that's a good spot for him. I just don't think he'd be rocking with what's going on there. But yeah. Next up, we have Nathan Levy. Need I say more? Come on now. Need I say more? Anyways, moving on. Alexander Volkanovski. I think Volk would be one of those guys as well, like trying to fit in with the cool guys, trying to go to a party with Sean O'Malley, same sort of thing, trying to fit in, try to go to a party, trying to enjoy himself, let off a little steam. He's older. He's going to retire soon. He's trying to make connections. I think he'd go to the island, but then he'd really see what's going on. He was like, yo, I got kids and stuff, and then he wouldn't go back. Because, I think Volk's a good guy overall, so I don't think he'd go there and, actually go back or anything like that. Yeah. I think Volk's a good guy overall. I think he'd see it and wouldn't go back. Jon Jones. Obvious, we're putting him even in front of him. Jon Jones, I think the only UFC fighter mentioned in the Epstein files, not that he was there, but he probably was, Jon Jones is a diddler. Like, he 100% is a diddler. Out of all the people on this list, he's right up there at the top with the biggest diddlers. He would 100% be there. Jon Jones probably has to go to Epstein's Island. 100%. He likes Trump a lot. He want to go to Epstein Island. I wouldn't be surprised if he'd still want to go. He's not a good guy. Dricus du Plessis. Dricus du Plessis. Where would he fit on here? I feel like he'd vacation there. I feel like the South Africans are a little bit freaky. I think he would go there. I think get his freak on and then kind of go away, like regret it a little bit, and then be like 3 weekends later, be like, I'm bored, let me go back, Not great. I'm not rocking with Drickus too much. I mean, listen, there's other worse fighters, worse people, but I think Drickus would go there a time or two. One time is too many, but he's going there more than once, if we're being realistic. Renato Moicano, going right there with some of the good fellas. I think he would. He'd go. I think he'd freak out. Get his little freak on and stuff, and then he'd come back and then talk shit about them. You know what I mean? Like I think he'd go and enjoy it, and then he would talk shit about it after. He'd get on the mic and say, "Fuck Jeffrey Epstein," fuck Macron, all that stuff. I think he'd post fight interview. I think he would talk bad on his man J.E., but he would still want to go. He talks that big talk. Jailton Almeida, absolutely a good friend of J.E. I don't know if you guys watched his performance last night, but it was disgusting. And I'm putting him there just because of that. Jailton Almeida is my least favorite UFC fighter probably because he's just so awfully boring, man. It's terrible. Like, this is besides the point, but he's so boring, so terrible. I've never enjoyed one of his fights. I'd rather watch women's MMA. I don't even want to say something out of pocket here, but oh my goodness, Jailton Almeida, bro, lock in. This is terrible. Umar Nurmagomedov, obviously another good friend of J.E. There's these types of people that you just know they're into that kind of thing. I don't know if he would overly be a good he'd like being around Epstein himself, but the type of things that Jeffrey Epstein was into, I think Umar is 100% also into those things. If you really take a look into that sort of region, they like those kinds of things. Umar Nurmagomedov, absolutely into those kinds of things. We got Israel Adesanya. This is interesting. I think he's kind of in that same boat as Drickus, who he had vacation there. He wouldn't brag about being there. Wouldn't be like, oh, we're friends or whatever. But he would go have his fun time there, get a little naughty. I think that's just the type of guy Israel Adesanya is, in the sense he wants to party and stuff like that. Not great, but yeah, I don't think he'd be into the little ones, but I think he'd be into the parties and stuff like that. Another guy, Michael Morales. I don't think he'd be in the little ones, but we've seen his kind of little zesty stuff. He'd definitely go get his freak on with maybe Bill Clinton or something himself. I think he's another good friend of J.E. I think Michael Morales is a little bit of a freaky little boy. Yeah, I think that's a good spot for him. We haven't had anyone in Kanye West yet. The GOAT, of course, himself, Charles Oliveira, would never go to the Epsteins Island. We know this. I don't know if there's a better person in the entire UFC. Charles Oliveira, the most likable UFC fighter, of course he wouldn't go to Epstein's Island. There's zero chance of that happening. Zero chance. Kanye West and Charles Oliveira, my two favorite people in this world. So, of course, never going to go there. Don't even question it. Sean Strickland, another one. I'm going to put him in, and listen, I love Sean Strickland. I really do. I'm going to put him in once and never went back. And the reason I say that is I think he would learn about it. I think he'd want to go to try to kill them all. He'd bring all his guns and shit, bring his truck with the gun mounted on the back, and try to take him out, if you know what I'm saying. I think Sean would just go once and try to. I don't think he could make it out of there. I think he'd try to take them all out and then get whacked himself. But that's just my guess. Yuri Prohaska, I'm going to put him in with Charles Oliveira. There's zero chance Yuri's going there. Unless it's to take out the J.E.'s and Bill Clintons and Donald Trumps. He might try to take them out with his samurai sword, but there's zero chance he's going there to get diddling around and naughty and all that stuff. There's zero chance Yuri Prohaska is too good of a guy. Too upstanding of a guy to go there and do that. But we got Jean Lord Silva. No, not a good guy. He's definitely, I don't know if I could put him in good friend of J.E. because he's just so annoying, but I think he would definitely vacation there a lot. He's a freaky guy. I think he'd have he's got a lot of trauma and stuff. He's trying to work it out and do some nasty things. I think he'd be there quite often. He's too strange and he scares me too much. I can't trust him around or trust him with that decision to go or not. I think he'd be there quite often. We got another freaky boy like Michael Morales. We got Peyton Talbot. I think he'd be there. I think he'd be a good friend of J.E.'s. He seems a little freaky. I'm going to put him back here. I think he may go there a time or two. You know what? I think I like Peyton Talbot enough. I'll put him in vacation there. I think he would vacation there on the weekend with Frank Ocean and really get. I think he'd get his freak on. But I think after a while he might be like, oh my God, what am I doing? You know. But he's a freaky boy. You know. If you look at him, he dances on a pole and stuff. You know. Like I don't want hating the guy or anything, but he's a really good fighter, fun to watch. But like, dude, you're a little strange. It's okay. We got Yanal Ashmuz. Another guy. He's going right up there with Nate Levy. He's going right up there with Nate Levy. Need I say more? Need I say more? I mean, no comment. No comment. Magomed Ankalaev. I think he's right in the same boat as Shamil Gaziev. I think he's going to be there. I think they're going to have him as, like, they're both really dumb. Just look at them. Like, they have room temperature IQs. I think they'd be there just, like, working or something. You know, I don't think the J.E. wants them around. But I think I think they'd be there quite often, working or something and getting some gnarly payments, some stuff we don't want to talk about, you know. But we got Diego Lopez. I think, Diego Lopez is a good guy. We know this. He's a good guy. I think he'd be there right with a Alexander Volkanovski type of guy. You know, two stand-up guys. I think they'd go there and be like, oh my God, brother, what is going on? Let me get out of here. And I think they'd dip on out of there. I think they wouldn't go back. You know, they're not into that kind of thing, you know? Not into that kind of thing. All right. We got Arman Tsarukyan. I'm going to put him up at the top because the reason I put him up at the top is because he's so rich and stuff. His family's so rich and stuff that some of his family has probably, I'm sure, been there, right? Like, you gotta think about, like, connections and stuff. Like, these two, they got connections. Arman Tsarukyan's rich family, he's definitely, someone in his family's probably been there with them having that much money, you know? So I'm going to put Arman Tsarukyan there because of his family, you know. But, all right, we're going to go with Alex Pereira next. I think, this is a hard one. This is a hard one. Yeah, let me not do Alex Pereira yet. Alexandre Pantoja. Zero chance he's going there. He wouldn't go there. He's too good of a guy, you know. He would hear the slightest peep about what's going on there. He'd be like, nah, man, I'm good, brother. I'm good. And he's just too good of a guy. Zero chance he's going there, you know. Yeah. Marab Dvalishvili. He's a good friend of J.E. 100%. He's a good friend of J.E. And it's sad. It's just the truth. You know, he'd want to get with the girls and stuff, you know. He doesn't have a wife. He doesn't want people to think he's gay, you know, like Piotr Jan called him gay or whatever. He just like, no brother, I'm not gay, but he would be there because, you know, he wants to get the girls and stuff, and you've seen him around all these OF girls and stuff, and unfortunately he'd be there. This is just truth. Khamzat Chimaev. I mean, listen, like I said, there's just these type of people. These just these type of people that are going to be there. They're into that kind of thing. Not that they like J.E. himself, but it's the kind of thing that was going on that island. There's just that type of person that's into that sort of thing. And Khamzat Chimaev, you know he's into that sort of thing. You know, he's with those powerful leaders over in the Middle East and stuff. And he likes those, he's into those sort of nasty things that those type of people are into. And by extension, I'm going to put Islam Makhachev right up there as well. I don't think quite as much as Khamzat Chimaev, but I think he's going to be there just the same. You know, like I said, there's those type of people. Islam Makhachev, I think he might have a little more remorse with it than Khamzat Chimaev, you know, or Jon Jones. But I think he's going to be there, unfortunately. Ilia Topuria. Now listen, this is tough. Another tough one. I think he'd vacation there though. I think he'd be in that same sort of thing with with the Israel Adesanya or Dricus du Plessis. I think yeah, I think he'd want to go to those parties and stuff. He likes being around all these fancy stuff, but I think he wouldn't vacation there as often as like a Israel Adesanya or Dricus du Plessis. I think he'd maybe go occasionally, not really he tried to avoid all the little freaky stuff, but he wants to be around the parties and all that stuff. Ilya Topuria, we know is a naughty boy down in Miami. So, and then last but not least, Alex Pereira. This is tough. This is a tough one. I'm gonna put him in once and never went back. I think he'd go like once and see what's going on. I think he'd try to like, boom, catch Jeffrey Epstein in the left hook, and then run out of there. We can't, he can't be involved in that sort of stuff. He's got people to knock out, But yeah, I think this is a pretty good list. I think I got a lot of people in the right area. These two rows are kind of tough to put, but I think this top row is as perfect as you can get it. Really, I think it is. Yeah, I appreciate you guys watching. This is one of my favorite videos I always been wanting to make. So I appreciate you guys watching. If you guys could like and subscribe and maybe even share it. And I appreciate you guys. Have a good one. Peace out.